Unit 22. Charles Dickens. On a pier in New York Harbor in 1841, a crowd watched a ship from England being towed to the pier. There was no ocean communication cable as yet, and the ship brought the latest news on a pressing question. The question was yelled from the pier to the ship, "Is Little Nell dead?" Little Nell was the heroine in a story called The Old Curiosity Shop. The latest installment of the serialized novel was on the ship, and the people were eager to learn how the story came out. The author who could stir people to such excitement was Charles Dickens, then a young man of 29. With the Pickwick Papers, he had become the world's most celebrated writer. Charles Dickens was born on February 7, 1812, in Portsmouth, England. His father, John Dickens, was a minor clerk in the Navy offices. He was a friendly man with a large family and only a moderate income. Charles was the second of 8 children. The family moved to London when Charles was 11, and after a series of financial disasters, John Dickens and his family ended up in a prison for debtors. Young Charles was able to secure work in a blacking factory and lodging in a garret. On Sundays, he visited his family in prison. When a timely inheritance restored the family to comfortable means, Charles had a few quiet years at a private school. The qualities that made up Dickens' genius did not depend on formal education for development. His real education came from his reading, observation, and daily experience. Dickens spent several years as a court reporter. He had a reporter's eye for the details of daily life and a mimic's ear for the subtleties of common speech. Further, he had the artist's ability to select what he needed from these raw materials of observation and to shape them into works of enduring merit. His novels all deal with his own day and environment, except for 2 historical novels, and reflect his concern for social justice and reform, as well as keen humor. When his rising fortune and fame gave him control of a great newspaper, Dickens put his father on the staff to preside over the dispatches and bought him a small country house. He later immortalized his father as Mr. Micawber, a character in his most autobiographical novel, The Personal History of David Copperfield. Unit 23. Clouds. Though they may look fairly solid, clouds are only collections of water droplets, ice crystals, or mixtures of both. Clouds are formed by natural processes acting on moisture in the air. This moisture is constantly renewed by evaporation. Evaporation is the escape of water molecules into the air as vapor. Water evaporates from land surfaces and from bodies of water that cover about 71% of the Earth's surface. Precipitation in the form of rain or snow, in turn, renews the surface water lost to evaporation, completing a cycle. The amount of water vapor that air can hold depends on the air's temperature. The cooler the air, the smaller the amount of water it can hold. When air is cooled enough, some of the water vapor will condense to form a visible mass of tiny droplets. The condensation of droplets from water vapor depends on the presence in the atmosphere of minute particles. Common sources of such particles are dust, grains of salt from the ocean spray, and particles from fires and volcanic eruptions. If condensation from water vapor to droplets occurs on the ground, it is called dew, which may be observed early in the morning on grass or flowers. If it happens near the ground, it is called fog or mist. When it occurs in the sky, it is called clouds. When air rises, it becomes cooler. Therefore, when moist air is forced to rise, as for example wind blowing up a mountainside, clouds are likely to form. Thus, windward sides of mountainous lands are often more cloudy and receive more precipitation than the opposite sides. Air is also forced upward by intense heating of land. That is why areas at or near the equator are nearly always cloudy during the hottest part of the day. Since early times, people have observed the ceaseless formation and disappearance of clouds. By observing cloud shapes and patterns of movement, it is possible to forecast changes in weather. Clouds can be grouped into three basic categories: cirrus clouds, wispy clouds that form high in the sky from ice crystals, nearly always indicate an end to clear weather. Cumulus clouds are puffy white clouds with a flat base, formed by rising bubbles of warm air. They are common on hot summer days. Stratus clouds form in layers that can reach across a whole sky and often bring drizzling rain or light snow.